I finally got a little fir tree to cooperate to hold my camera. I don't know if you can hear me or see me, but I wanted to share something with you. You know, everyone has a gift. Everyone has something that they can give, something that they can share with other people. Sometimes that gift is just caring. Did you know that love is an action verb? Really, you think about it. Love always takes action. Love never sits idle and watches when there's a need. Love is engaged completely from the heart. I want you to think about, the poor people that we have. And maybe there's people that, they can't get food stamps and they can't get welfare because of their own misdeeds and because of their own messed up lives and choices that they've made. They're cut out of the system, and there's no help from them from our tax base. Does that mean that we should write these people off? Well, you might say, well, Pastor Steve, if you give to them, you're only contributing to their delinquency. Well, that certainly might be. But is it already a foregone conclusion that we're not going to help them? Or do we stop and pray and say, Lord, here's the need. I bring it up to you. What would you have me do? Love will always do something. If you sense that they're just going to take the money and buy more alcohol and drugs with it, which is often the case, but not always the case. Maybe you could go buy them a sandwich. There's something that you can do to help them. And some have even said, well, if you buy them a sandwich, they're just going to go sell the sandwich for a nickel, and it's a nickel closer to their next beer or whatever. That may be, but you showed them love. And what it's like for people that are lost and in the world, they're destitute and they're poor. Their lives are just full of pain and misery and sorrow. It's like their life is a bucket, and the bucket has holes in it. And you could say, well, if you put anything in their bucket, it's just going to leak out the bottom. There's giant holes. Anything you give that person or this person, they're going to squander. Maybe they will squander it, but that's not my problem. That's not their problem. That's between them and God. One thing that I do know, when we put in people's empty buckets that have holes in the bottom, and yes, it goes right out the bottom, let me tell you this, unless we give to them, making love an action verb in some tangible way, then we don't really have a right to speak to them. Loving with action earns the right to speak. You're not just going to walk up to them and tell them everything that they did wrong and what they need to do. That's not likely going to help them. What they need to know is that God cares about them personally, and that God has a way for them to be redeemed and for their life to be restored. And somebody's going to have to care enough to stop and talk to them rather than just say, well, if I give them anything, then they're just going to squander it. Folks, we shouldn't be making such foregone conclusions. We really, really should stop, and we should pray and say, Lord, here's the need. What would you have me do? Let me ask you this question. Believers, Christians, are you broken for the lost? Have you become numb? You're no longer affected by the plight of man? Why don't I ask, Lord, what would you have me do? And let's be directed by the Holy Spirit. And remember, it's always better to err on the side of grace than on judgment. I don't know their heart. I may never meet them again. But one thing I can do is I can show them the love of Christ by caring, coming alongside and showing compassion and mercy. So I challenge you folks with this Christmas season. Every one of us has a gift to give. This gift is love and compassion. I'm not saying that you should feed into their delinquency. I'm not saying that you should fund their next half rack. Not at all. What I'm saying is share what matters. Love is an action verb. Thanks for taking time to listen to this. I see that the sun has just now gone down over the hill. Came up here on the back of my property. Rode my quad up as far as I could to the tree line there. I think it's so cold now the camera's not going to focus. The sun just going down over the hill.